G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to another one of our team previews. Yes, the band is back together, the boys are back. We have the Swordplay crew, my two brothers. We are back for 2024, not with the Swordplay podcast in particular, but with a team preview for one of my co-hosts' favourite team, obviously the Carlton Blues. So I'm going to start off with this legend. Janath, my brother, how have you been, my mate? It's been a little while since the viewers would have seen you on the channel. So how have you been, brother? Tell me about how your life's going.
Life's going okay. It's been very busy over the summer. It's not been the stock standard break, but yeah, it's just a bit of a wait and see at the moment. A couple of things, just mulling over a couple of things, sort of thing. But SuperCoach wise and the Blues, I'm not saying I'm feeling overly on top of the world, because as a Carlton fan, you sort of brace for that sort of just the disappointment. But after last season, I guess you just get into this sort of vibe, like, oh, all right, we can actually do this. We sort of got off-field stability. Re-signed Michael Voss and Brian Cook as well. So we've got good off-field stability, a couple more engagements and weddings, and Crips having a baby. And it's like, again, I said this last off-season, you might remember this, and I said that good off-field vibes translates to good on-field vibes. And
I do remember.
Big proponent of that. A lot of guys got married last off-season as well. So hopefully we'll see. It does feel a bit of that Hawthorn 2013 to 2015 family club sort of vibes. But yeah, just pumped to see the Blues out and about this year. Round 0 is a bit of a joke, honestly, because I don't want to play at the Gabba in round 0. Are you kidding? We're going to be 0-1. No one loses at the Gabba. Well, you guys don't lose the Gabba. Everyone else loses at the Gabba. That's what I mean.
Oh, mate, it's exciting times, isn't it, for Carlton supporters? Because you steamed home at the end of last year after an interesting start. So very excited to be previewing your boys today, mate. And the second bloke you'll see down the bottom here, you all know this man, my man Spills. What has been going on, mate? Welcome to the Carlton team preview.
Yeah, good to be here, lads. Yeah, this preview's not really. It is the Carlton preview, but this is more about the lads, the bloody dynamic trifecta back together. It's good to be here, and I missed out on the last preview. I was absolutely spewing when I couldn't be there for the Essendon one on Valentine's Day, because I saw some pretty nice information about Parish. I won't get into that because this is a Carlton preview, but yeah, did one with George as well, Adelaide. So yeah, good series you got going on here, DR, and yeah, can't wait to rip into the Blue Baggers here. And look, to be honest, I don't see a lot of really relevant players in this one. Like the man in front of us, Welsh, he's definitely probably, I think, the most relevant, but someone I'm not looking to start, and we'll talk about that later on. But yeah, keen to double in, lads. Talk about Super. I'm missing for
Beautiful,
you.
mate.
I cannot wait.
Beautiful, mate. Well, I tell you what, exciting times for the Swordplay potty as well. Now, this is a Carlton team preview, but as we said, the boys are back. So very, very quickly, a couple of things that I'd just like to mention. So first thing, really excited about this. We promised it back in 2023. We'd rectify this for 2024. We are now officially on Spotify. So I've decided that I will upload all the team previews that we're doing in the preseason. And then obviously come the season proper, every Swordplay episode will now be on Spotify. So another thing we've made sure that we're going to be doing is catering to the audio side of things rather than just the visuals. So we'll make sure that we look after our pure podcast audience on Spotify, which is really exciting. I'll tell you what, talk about exciting, boys, as well. The new merch line. So we're not going to say too much at the moment, but we've just put in an order for some... How would we describe these beanies, boys? Just absolutely elite. The best
elite.
beanie.
Unreal.
Yeah. You can't get your hands on a better beanie than this. So everything will be up very, very soon. So really excited to launch a bit of a fair merch line, to be honest. Some T-shirts, some hoodies going on as well. And possibly even more exciting, well, where to actually get this stuff, we will be launching a new website, which will be up in the coming weeks as well. So it's all happening in 2024, lads. Pretty exciting times, eh?
Hey, this is the time you want to get behind the podcast.
Absolutely.
This is it.
Absolutely.
This is the time.
Ready to get into it. So, boys, we are here for the Carlton team preview. So let's get into it. The first thing we notice there is that they do have the 2 buys, rounds 2 and 14. So I think that in itself, for some people, makes Carlton irrelevant in some ways, but I don't think that it's simply a matter of let's just discount every player on the list, because there are certainly some players that could hold some relevance. And I know that we've all at least got one Carlton player in our sides at the moment. So, Janath, let's get into it. Now, I remember last season, we're going to start off in defence, that you said that this bloke was really, really important to your side. It is Nicky Newman, so the highest priced defender for the Blues this year, 31 years of age, played 21 games last year, an average of a tick over 100, so really nice. Disposals, almost a 24 mark there, 6.5 contested. Not a bad mark rate there, 7.5. Now, he's certainly a pod, only 1.2% ownership at the moment, but with some bonus kick-ins, is he going to be relevant at all, mate? What can you tell us about Nicky Newman this pre-season? Is he tracking well, mate? And does he hold any relevance this year?
I'd say that with Newman, he's just been uber consistent since he came to the club from Sydney. And just like I was saying last year, just that injury that he had against Adelaide a couple of years ago really derailed our finals chance. And we saw at the back end of last year, he was like literal glue in that back line, just so consistent. And one of the, I'll be the first to say that I was really surprised with his SuperCoach output. It almost felt like Sard went into more of a lockdown role. Chincotta was playing a lockdown role, and Newman, who's normally the lockdown defender, was taking a bit more initiative, kicking it out of defense. And so those mark stats, like that, really helped his scoring. And there was, if I recall correctly, there were halves where it was at 80 at halftime, and then he gets like 110, 120. Like, he was just brilliant to own on that run home. But I just think that part of that was Sam Docherty moved to the wing / into the midfield. From what reports are saying, Docherty did have sort of a interrupted preseason with off-season ankle surgery, but I think that he'll have a little bit more on his plate, just taking it out of defense, like being that link between the midfield and defense. So I can't see Newman being a top 6 defender. And again, just going to have to preface every Carlton play here that round 2 bye, it really does hurt their your ability to start them at the start of the season. So I'd probably pass on Newman at this stage, just because his age as well, 31. Yes, he's a defender. We sort of only really have that 30 exception for midfielders because they're sort of bash and crash. But yeah, just at the price, I don't see how he can improve upon his average from last season and be a certified top 6 defender.
Very nice work, mate. Spilsy is currently owned, as we mentioned before, by 1.2% of sides. A massive pod. Do you think that's for good reason, mate?
Yeah, look, I really like Nick Newman as a player, and yeah, a huge cog, as you said, Janath, in Carlton's season last year. He's just a revelation in defence. But what sort of SuperCoach is going to say, no, I don't want a Dan Houston, I don't want a Harry Sheasel, I don't want a Jordan Ridley, I don't want a Tom Stewart. I want a bloke who's in 1.2% ownership with barely any sort of insight. He's a fantastic player, but like the problem I have with 50K range players is like, well, not really the problem, but when I look to select one of those sort of players, I look at upside. I look at Hayden Young. I look at Harry Sheasel. Are their roles going to improve, and are they going to officially turn into top 6 to 8 defenders, AK, low 600K players? But Nick Newman, I think he's just as honest as the day is long. I don't think he'll go lower. I don't think he'll go much higher either. So perfect little snap up in draft if the going gets tough, but have not thought of him once in Classic, and nothing against him or the Blues, but yeah, not for me, boys.
I guess the other elephant in the room is if Zack Williams comes back, that's going to be a large chunk of the rebounding taken away from Newman. So it's almost as if Newman, in a way, I'm just going to counterpoint the Sheasel thing. I'm not saying that Newman's a better defender a better Supercoach defender than Sheasel is, but at least you know Newman's role. Like that's the one sort of big red flag with Sheasel is that if he gets moved forward 1 week, then that's something that Newman does have, and I think there's a bit of weight that needs to be placed on that. But just at the moment, it's hard to justify starting him as a Supercoach pick.
Couldn't agree more. And it was a nice little segue there into this man, Zack Williams. Now, I've had him in my team locked right from the start when the team picker opened. 28 years of age, obviously didn't play last year. 59.8% ownership, I think for good reason. I think if you've been watching football for the last 5-6 years, you know all about this pick. You know the pros, you know the cons. Obviously, the big con is durability, but the pros, for me personally, I think certainly outweigh the cons this year. If you look at that price for potential, I think this guy could be a fantastic cash cow. But the big question I've got in my mind, Janath, will obviously go to you first here, mate. Do you think he'll actually be fit for round 1, or is he still got a bit of a race on his hands there to make it, mate?
So I know that Blake Acres had a discussion about that, and he said that he's tracking for round 1, but there just is there's just a little iffy sort of thing that maybe he may not be risked. But I guess that even if he's not risked for not round 1, this is the sort of tough part. I keep not forgetting, but it's like round zero.
Yeah.
But it's more like he's 95% there. That's what they're saying. He's playing in contact training as well. So he's not in those like hats and non-contact hats or anything like that. So he is playing he's playing well. And I mean, at his price, 216k, he's priced at 39. In the 4 seasons before last season, he averaged 77, 85, 85, and 102. So to make 150k, he needs to average 67. And so he's gone so far above that mark in the seasons before that if he is named in round 1, you just pick him. And I guess the beauty of it is, and this is something which I think a lot of super coaches are forgetting, is I know a lot of people are sort of not flying away from picking Brisbane Lion or Carlton Blue. But if you pick a Carlton Blue or Brisbane Lion, you have a donut that you can use as your VC captain loop without having to start a non-playing player. So if we have a plain ruckman, like a Toby Conway or Jordan Sweet or anyone like that, you want to have 30 players that is going to make you money from the start of the season. And I think Zack Williams fulfills that, because I guess just the thing for those that are new around here with regards to buys is if you have a player that's on their buy, you can VC anyone up until that last game. And then you can captain whoever you want. Basically, it's free reign because there's no restrictions with when games start or when anything like that. So that's something to keep in mind. It's just the durability. If you get 6 games out of Williams, he'll make you 150k. I'm almost certain of it.
I'm in agreement. And I think for me, Williams is going to be that type of bloke that I probably look to flip as soon as I can whenever he's made that money. Look, you could hold on to him for a little bit longer, but if you look at history, I'd be pretty surprised if he got through a whole season. So he's the type of bloke that I like starting. As you said, Janath, get your 6 odd games from him, make your cash, and then look to move him on. That would be my most likely plan with him. But again, if he's smashing out of the park, you probably just want to keep him on until hopefully he doesn't go down, but if he does go down. Spilsy, any thoughts that you can add on Zack Williams, mate? I'm assuming he's been locked in your side for a while, like many of us, mate.
Yeah, since day dot. It's hard to believe we're having the same, like a discussion about the same bloke who was actually my D2 in 2019. I mean, he's a proven premium, absolute proven primo in previous years, and like I think we're sort of underestimating what he can do. Like, yeah, he's sort of made of glass. I won't lie there. He's bloody one of the most injury-prone players in the comp. But if he can stay fit, I genuinely reckon he could be a buy flip for every second buy. If we could, like, for that like perfect on-field scoring. And I like that he has such an early buy because it's before upgrade season. So you basically just field like a Zach Reed or a Gibkiss or whoever you got on the bench to save that score. So yeah, it's not like you got a primo that's got a buy and then you got to field a rookie. It's just like for like. So I love that aspect as well. So yeah, I think he's in 59.8% of sides for a bloody good reason. And speculation whether or not he gets up round one, I think that's just Carlton being conservative, and we'll see what happens. But if there's a green arrow next to Zack Williams come round one, let alone round 0, even bonus if we get a look at him, hands down a lock. But I do have a question for you boys. So hypothetically, his name round 0 up at the Gabba, and he scores shithouse. Are you backing off or are you going to back him in? Like, what do we reckon? If we get a look at him and he's like, let's just say he scores 45, what do we do? Like, do we back him in? Like, genuinely sort of been thinking about that one because you do get a look at it. It's a free hit.
It's a good question. And I think it's easy to sort of overlook that is a genuine possibility because it's going to be his first game in a year and basically a year and a half.
Yeah.
But what I think is really good with Zack Williams is that he can have a bounce game. He can really he can have a spike game. And I guess the other really big thing that we sort of discussed on our SuperCoach Swordplay potty in last year after round 1 was that the round 0 score this time, since it contributes to a player's average, is only going to be in that for one price raise. And so that'll be gone after his bye or in round 3. Sorry. So you'll only have that 45 in there. And I mean, we're expecting 70s, right? And so if he has a 45, he'll probably have an 80 at some point. And so it's just a game of balance. Yes, it could be a good antipod, but I guess the other thing that sort of didn't mention before is with 4 of the first 6 rounds as best 18, if he does have that early injury, then at least best 18 will cover you. So I wouldn't worry too much about his durability from a point standpoint as opposed to more so a money-making standpoint. Dia?
Yeah, absolutely with you. And I think we've got to look into, let's just say he gets you 45. Well, why? What are the circumstances here? Did he pull up a little bit lame and needs to be rested? So there's a lot that's going on. But look, if you pass the eye test, if he just gets through that first game and the role looks half decent, there's no world where I'm not picking Zack Williams in my starting side. So I think he's a really easy lock, and 60%. Yep, I think that's great. Now, that's all I had for the slides for the defenders, Janath. But very quickly, mate, do you think that we've got any other relevance here? Look, I've seen Adam Sard there. Onto him last year, had a bit of a red hot start, but for some reason seemed to just fall off an absolute cliff there. We've got your Wiederings, McGovern, Kemp's type, Chincotters to your Boyd Marchbank, Lockie Cowan, rookie from last year. How about this bloke, Billy Wilson? There's been a little bit of talk about him, Janath. Can you tell us anything about Billy? Defensive mid, 117,300.
Yeah, so he's a bit he's been a bit of a live wire, someone that sort of caught the attention of sort of track watchers that have gone to see games. So I'm just pulling up some of his junior numbers, and I just got it. So he averaged 80.4 in his AFL fantasy, playing in the Coates League. I think that's what. Yes. So playing in the Coates League, 11 games, 22.5 disposals, four marks, 2.5 tackles. So he's just that rebounding sort of defender. I guess just the problem with Carlton, the way that we've structured up, is that we just have so many of those types at the moment. So he's probably behind, I'd say he's behind Williams, Newman, Sard, Doherty, even though Doherty is probably going to be playing that sort of wing role, Jordan Boyd, Alex Chincotta, and then so it gets a bit murky there. So I'd say he's just one to sort of have on your watch list. He could debut at some point this season, and when he does, I think he's going to be one that we want to be jumping on as a downgrade target.
Beautiful, mate. Nice and cheap with DPP as well. Yeah. Always a big bonus. All right, let's get on to the midfield now. And this bloke, I was really impressed with his season last year. Adam Chair, I think a bit of a breakout season for him. 24 years of age, 19 games, almost pushed his average to 110, average just over 25 touches, 10 of those contested, almost 5 tackles, a CBA rate of 57%. Only 1% ownership, though. At over 600K, I think it's a bit of a fair ask to select Adam Chera. But Janath, do you think he can take that average to, say, a 115 plus? Or do you think that may be a little bit of a struggle and he's possibly more of a 110 type player with not a lot of upside at the current price, mate?
What if I was to tell you that Adam Chera, if every player in the AFL, sorry, not every player. If every player in the AFL had 100% time on ground, Adam Chera would be 5th in SuperCoach points per game. So there's So if we take time on ground, there's a reason why I say this. So Bond, 152.8 points per game. So imagine the Bond plays 100% of time on ground, he'd be averaging 150. Tim English, 149. Libba, 148.6. Rory Laird, 147.8. Clary, 147. And then you have Adam Chera, 143.8. Now, the reason for this is he has one of the best points per game. He turned up against Collingwood by halftime, and then he had a hamstring injury. Got subbed off at halftime, and he had already turned up.
Like if you tearing your hair out, wouldn't you?
Oh man, that was me when Sam Walsh against West Coast was on about 108 midway through the second, and then he did his hamstring as well.
Yeah,
but I think there's a world where Adam Chera can average 115. It would take a lot. It would take a lot to pick him, given his early bye. The fact that he had 7 scores above 125 in a 12-game stretch between round 5 and 17 last year.
Jeez, that's very hot.
7 VC scores or C scores you would banking just take it and run. He's in his 7th season, but he always has that injury. He's flying and he has that injury. And so that's the tough part of it. I guess the other part of it is Carlton share the round 14 bye with Essendon, Melbourne, and Gold Coast mids. So you got your Parrish, Merritt, you got Petrarca, Oliver, Anderson, Rao, too, Walsh. So it's just I think he can take it to 115. He's got levels to his game to go. Centre bounce prediction closer to 65, I think, because just the way we're running, Hewett's probably going to be phased out a little bit out of that midfield, and we had small forwards running through the midfield last year, like Lockie Fogarty, David Cunningham, those types. But I think Chera, Crips, Walsh, Kennedy, probably missing Doherty. Those 5 will probably be the main sort of midfielders, and then you have your sort of ancillary pieces that come in here and there, play that utility role.
I'm very surprised to hear that, mate. Wow, 6. If he had 100% TOG, what a stat! You are the numbers man, as we know, Janath. Spilsy,
I'll give credit where credit's due quickly to Azajul on Twitter. Brilliant. He's got a lot of good stats there, and so he picked that one out a couple of weeks ago. So kudos to him.
Nice work, Azza. Spilsy, any thoughts on Adam Chera, or is he a name that you pretty much just skip past, buddy?
Well, normally, yeah, definitely. But that's why I love these sort of videos podcasts, because you can really dissect each player. And great point you raised there, Janath. I love this selection. I reckon it's bold. It's ambitious. You'd have to be almost mental to go there, because since he's got that first buy. But one like Welsh, you can really keep an eye out. If you do start a Tom Green, you can flip him when he has his buy. So Chera or Welsh, if Chera's averaging like 120 and flying, he might actually be the guy that we jump to. Like, that's a bold call, I know, but yeah, the points per minute is up, and he's coming into the prime of his career.
One that I highlighted last year, we were saying DR how there's sort of in the second year being a Blue, you sort of go to that next level. I'm not sure who's going to be this year because Blake Acres. Are we picking Blake Acres?
Lakers, yeah.
Yeah, maybe draft.
Maybe a draft. Very good. Well, yeah, we're all fans of Adam Chera as a player, as a starting pick.
You can't do it. No
I'm
way.
not
You
that
can't
guy.
even.
I
You can't
couldn't.
even start. Can't even start Welsh. I don't think just because they're by. It's just
Ooh.
it's too
That's
awkward.
It's a big
Too
segue,
awkward.
and it's a very, very nice segue. Here he is, Mr. Sam Walsh. Now, I'll tell you what, people may think I'm a little bit crazy, but at no point in time has this man made his way into my side during the preseason. I had a couple of comments on, I think it was my last team reveal, saying if you don't have Sam Walsh in your side, just delete app. You can't be serious about the game. Do I think there's upside with the pick? Absolutely. Looks like he's having a great preseason. We know he's struggled with preseasons in the past, just hasn't been able to get on the park. But I think this year things may be a little bit different for him. But for me, it's the buy that makes things really difficult. I think there are other players just above his price at around a similar age who I think can have at least an equal type of an impact that have a better buy. But if you look at the numbers from last year, 15 games, an average of 103.2, 28.6 disposals, 10.9 contested, almost 5 tackles, a CBA rate of 55%. But Janath, I'm really keen to hear your thoughts about this man. What do you think about the Sam Walsh selection, and in particular as a starting pick going into 2024?
Let me put it this way. If Sam Walsh and Carlton didn't have their round 2 bye, he would be a lock.
Agree.
And that's just it's just the nuances of the 2024 AFL season, because he averaged 122 in our pre-finals. SuperCoach, well, they didn't count for SuperCoach, but he's very underpriced this year. It's quite possible that this is the lowest price we see Walsh at this season. For someone that at the start of his career he was so durable. I think he had, what was it? Oh, I don't have the stat off the top of my head, but like 70 odd games in a row or something.
Good effort.
Maybe it was 50 to 70 in a row, just every game from his debut. And then he's just had these niggles that have just been hampering him. Like at the start of last year, he had the ankle issue, and then he had a hamstring issue against that West Coast game we were talking about. So if he just stays fit and has a high centre bounce appearance rate than 55%, that's quite low. And I think, like I was saying before, George Hewett sort of going out of the midfield, I can see where Sam Walsh really takes on that mantle, because Crips is not getting any younger. We saw Walsh, I think he had 68% centre bounce appearances in those pre-finals. And obviously we just saw how effective and damaging he was, which is somewhat been a knock of his, was damaging, especially with like Kane Corns and stuff. But we saw just Gary Ayres medalist. So yeah, if he can push back into, I think, 2021 he averaged 111, 117, 2022 111. So yeah, there's a real possibility that he could hit that 100 and sort of 15, 120 mark again, and be a top 8 mid.
It's a tough one. It's that buy, isn't it? That's really putting us off. Spilsy.
Oh.
What are you thinking about Sam Walsh, mate?
I think not on Sam Walsh, but like on the people that the 31.8% of people that own him. Like, you just got rocks in your head. What are you doing? He's got like the first
it's controversial.
buy. No,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's not the worst idea,
not.
mate. It's not.
No, it's like, yeah, but you'd rather, I don't know, it just seems sus. Like, it's kind of like the same theory about starting Nick Dacos, 2 buys. Like,
not everyone's playing for rank.
That's it's a
You
valid point.
You got your Tom Green, Sam Walsh, Nick Dacos. These guys, you want them in your team at the end of the season. Well, with Walsh, possibly.
Definitely.
We don't know.
I think it's just a different strategy, of course, but but I'm definitely 100% targeting him after his buy. Like, absolutely, he's someone that I really want to bring in, and I think you're right, Jan. I think 576k is the cheapest we'll get him all year. says here the major cons to starting Sam Welsh, I think, definitely have to be his durability. Was on Dylan Friends. I think many would have heard that one. Spoke a lot about his back injury. He said it takes over 12 months for it to properly heal. So he's had some real carnage, the poor bloke. So it's going to be great to see if he could get through a full season. I think he deserves it. Gary Ayres, medalist for a reason, best finals player. He was absolutely spectacular. He's just one of the main reasons you guys could have done. Just inside, outside, his work rate. He's got to be one of the hardest working players in the AFL. He's just unbelievable. You look at the tracker, he's always in the top 2 or 3 every single time. He's just unbelievable player. So yeah, with the Tom Green strat that I'm doing after when he has his bye, I can't wait to hopefully bring Sam Welsh in and then rest easy for the rest of the season if he can stay on the park. But yeah, you guys have a good one here, Janath. I think he's more than capable of being a top 8, if not top 6 midfielder. So yeah, really exciting player. So hopefully he can get it done.
Spills, that strat will work until Tom Green averages 140 in the first 2 rounds against West Coast and North.
It's a risky one, and I don't condone it, but it's something that myself and Dio thought pretty long and hard on. You can always get Tom Green back in the side.
It's going to be a very interesting conversation, and tell you what, when that time comes, there might be some receipts taken. I tell you, it's going to be very, very interesting times. We'll see how we go, boys. All right, the next man is Patrick Crips, former Brownlow medalist. A little bit lucky there, I think, to be eligible. But, another story there. I'm not going to piss
a bit lucky, yeah.
Particularly after what Lachlan Neal did to the Bond. I better not say too much, I think, because that was a little bit wrong, I think. But 28 years old, 21 games last year. The 2023 average, 97.5. I remember when this man didn't burst onto the scene, but, a couple of years in the system, I thought to myself, this bloke is just going to be a SuperCoach lock for the next 7-8 type years. But it really hasn't panned out that way, one way or another, with Paddy Crips. Disposal-wise last year, almost averaged 25. Half of those were contested, so that's obviously a big part of his game. 5.5 tackles. CBA rate, 79%, was the highest of all Carlton midfielders, and is currently owned by 2.2% of the competition. So, Janath, I suppose the opening question that I'll ask you, mate, do you think there is any chance whatsoever that Cripper gets back to his best scoring days? Or do you think from now on, he's just going to be one of those average type mids that will have a good game here and there?
No, I don't think he will. And there's a reason for this. It's not to do with Patrick Cripps. It's to do with the Carlton game plan. Now, one of the big shifts that happened after that sort of 8-game losing streak was Carlton went into a more free-flowing style of footy, less chip mark and less stoppage. It was, whilst we were still beating teams out of stoppage, there were just less stoppages overall. And this was to do with injecting speed through that midfield, injecting speed across the ground. And that just doesn't suit Cripper. It suits your Chero, it suits your Walsh types that can spread really well out of contest, but not Patrick Cripps, who does most of his work at stoppage. We just remember the game that he won the Brownlow medal off due to against Collingwood in round 24 in 2020. In 2022, he just brutalized the stoppages. Just won every clearance, that sort of thing. But I just think that game plan of Vossi's is just, it stands up, but I think that we're moving towards game plan that's not built on just pure stoppage and is more so done in transition as well, which is something that Carlton fans were just screaming to change, is we needed to score more through transition and not just rely on clearance. And I think we sort of found that ideal mix near the end of the season.
Very good, mate. So you think that some people may potentially be a little bit harsh on Paddy Crips, possibly more to the game style and game plan than him as an individual? Because if we look at that 28 years of old, he's getting closer to 30, but still should be playing his best football. Spills, any interest whatsoever in starting Paddy Crips?
Nah, not really. Not taking anything away from him. Yeah, he's a bloody warrior of the Blues. So I wish the Bombers had someone in and under as good as him. But it's all about Carlton's game plan. It benefits them as a team, and it's another reason why they made it all the way to a prelim and challenged Brisbane as well, just off the back of how they play. But yeah, obviously that has a negative impact on Cripper's role. Not as many stoppages, which is, let's be honest, his bread and butter. And I think a little bit off topic, but I think it's got a lot to do with why I've sort of backed away from Luke Ryan, because I think Freo will avoid that chip mark. So it's good. I think it'll be good for them, but not good for Ryan. It's the exact same thing with Cripper. So I just don't think there's a world where he's really relevant unless you guys go back to your old ways. But why would you? I mean, look at the footy you've been playing. So yeah, no, not for me, boys.
I'm with you, mate. Janath, last question on Paddy Crips. By the end of his career, will we refer to Patrick Crips as a premiership captain?
Oh, I hope so. He made my lights.
Yes or no, Janath?
Yes. I
Yes.
believe in it.
Oh,
quickly. As a Carlton premiership captain, no one's taking him away from us. That's he's retiring as a Blue. Don't do this time.
Love the confidence. Hey, you got to be confident, mate. I would have been a little bit disappointed if you had said, "Oh, I don't think so." You got to be confident. You got to be up and about as a Carlton supporter at the moment, mate. So I genuinely hope, mate, that Brisbane get a couple first, and then you're fine to have one for Cripper towards the end of his career there, mate. Next one is Georgie Hewett. So I know it was a couple of years ago now where this bloke was just a phenomenal defensive pick. This year, obviously, midfielder only. If you look at that 2023 average, geez, it seems low for a bloke with his potential. 78.7, did play the 19 games. Disposal average, a tick over 20 there. Almost half of those contested. Does like a tackle, 4.6. A CBA rate of 59%. But again, like many of these players, it seems like a common number when it comes to ownership here, 1%. So, Janath, my first question to you is, mate, why did his scoring regress last year? Is this about role? Is he playing an unselfish type team role for Michael Voss? What can you tell us about Georgie Hewett, mate?
So just with regards to the average, 4 of those games were sub-affected. So in those, so he scored 39, 22, 19, and 17 in back-to-back games. And so I don't have the number just off the top of my head, but I would imagine in non-sub-affected games, he, just give me 1 second. In non-sub-affected games, I would say that he averaged probably close to the 90 mark. It's just what I'm thinking. So he is underpriced for sure. I've got it here. And 92. So he averaged 92 with 68% centre bounce appearances if you take off those 4 games where he had less than 50% time on ground. And so really he's a good player, but for all the reasons that we mentioned with the other Carlton mids, if everything that applied to Patrick Cripps applies to George Hewett, is quicker game style. In fact, I think, like I was saying, the only mids that this really benefits are Adam Cherry and Sam Walsh, that new game style, in terms of SuperCoach. And George Hewett, 440k mid only. He's not going to get DPP. I just don't see a world where there's scope to improve, even if there's value inbuilt in him at that price, because he's got to average 106 to make 150k. At that point, you're almost keeping him as an M8. It's like just that awkward price where, like, if he gets 150k, he's at 600, close to 600k. Like you're not selling him at 600k, right? So it's just a hard one to justify starting, especially with that early buy.
Absolutely agree, mate. Spills, I'm assuming you used to be a Hewett owner when he was available in defence. What do you think about him as a 440k mid this year, mate?
Not in a million years, DR. No way. I don't have many. I don't have many players on my never again list, but yeah,
never again.
Never again. No way.
He's not Peanut Laddams here, mate. You got to give him a bit of credit. He's in that same pedigree. He's in that same pedigree. He was a star for us in 2020 until he wasn't, and he cost me a 3-digit rank that year. Absolutely. This is personal. So it's personal. I knew there must have been some sort of a grudge.
Yeah, this is a personal one. Ruled out. Literally after I used my
Oh,
last trade.
man.
My fault, obviously, but this was so unexpected. Chase Burgoyne was fantastic for me as cover at D6. Chase Burgoyne, Janath, yeah, you wouldn't believe it, but having Hewett there on the bench just hurt. And he was so good in 2022. I mean, definitely like a massive cog in Carlton's best 22, but their game style's changed. He's just not up with it. And I don't even think he's honestly best 22. If not, if he is, he's definitely a sub. At 440k, as if you wouldn't pick like Matt Crouch or Cam Guthrie or Nick Martin. I mean, come on. There's just better options. There's no way. He's a good player, I suppose, but
Hewett did show that ceiling though. Again, 142, 127. So it wasn't like he's fallen off a cliff or anything. When he got that opportunity, he did show it. But it wasn't at that consistent rate. In 2022, it was just 100 upon 100 every single week. He's just that player that you just set and forget until he got injured, and it was just unavoidable. But at the same time, it wasn't like you'd spent a trade on him at that point because most of us started him. So it was just unfortunate with the timing of it all.
Broke me heart, George Hewett, but never again.
Yeah,
Never.
some players do, mate, like the two bloody number 14s that you got there in the background, mate.
Every year, I'm still way not where I want to start him.
Stuff Ridley, man. There's no
biggest
chance,
bait in
no,
SuperCoach riddles.
He goes 2 180s in the prac games ever. Not even going close to me, mate. The next bloke we have is Elijah Hollands. Now, being a little bit of a naughty boy. I think it was
naughty.
Last year in 2023. 21 years of age, 9 games last year. I think some of these were sub-affected as well, but 49.4 for an average, 12.7 disposals, almost 5 contested. Again, surprise, surprise. Look at that ownership, 1% again. So, Janath, how's he tracking the preseason, mate? And do you think that this bloke has any sort of relevance this year with his likely role that he'll be playing when he gets in the senior side?
To answer that first question, looking good in preseason. There's been good raps on him, and I think as soon he's got a 2-week suspension, so he'll return straight after that bye. I think he's in our best 22 as a high half forward. I know that Jack Silvani's ACL injury. I know a lot of people malign him because of his dad or whatnot, but he is genuinely a really important player for us, and we didn't necessarily miss him in finals because Jack Martin sort of stepped up, and you had these small forwards playing a better role. But I think Elijah Holland's got the potential to play that role. It's just one to watch that he may be a possible DPP at some point throughout the season. So I don't know if he's playing DPP and he sort of looks good as a mid. He was drafted as the best midfielder in his draft class. The Suns picked him up at pick 6, I think, after an ACL injury as well. Reunited with his brother. I think one of the big things with Hollands is that he's got sort of a pedigree, and I'm a really big advocate of this, but picking players in contract years. So the big example of this is Jake Stringer. Whenever Jake Stringer's in a contract year, he just goes gangbusters every time. It's almost like he should be in a contract year every year. But because Hollands had that mishap with the drug use at Gold Coast, when he came over to Carlton agreed, and if he was found guilty, I think his 3-year contract would get brought down to a 1-year contract. And so right now he's on a 1-year contract. And so obviously if he doesn't perform well this season, we can opt out. But I doubt you don't opt out of a 22-year-old player that has potential like Holland says. But that's the reality check he needed, I reckon. So maybe it's just one to keep in mind, possible DPP. He would have had his bye by then. Just someone to keep on the fringes, because you never know. We may not get any good forward DPPs this year. And so you just have to, our final 6 may look a lot different to what it did look like last year. I'll give you another player that's in a contract here, and I think, pretty sure, but Errol Goulden. He could be the first 10-year contract player in the AFL, I reckon.
I'm with you, mate. I actually heard very quickly, I know it's not relevant to Carlton, but there was an interview the other day where they asked him about it, and they said, you to think about it, and he said, oh, look, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I didn't think about it and didn't cross my mind. But obviously, I'm born and bred in Sydney, want to stay here all the rest. So I'll tell you what, how many clubs would come for him if there was not 17 other clubs that came hard for this man?
Yeah.
Sack the recruiting staff, I reckon.
Sack the
Absolutely
recruiting
sack
staff.
them. Spilsy, any thoughts that you can give us on Elijah, mate?
Well, off field, obviously, best on ground. At all the footy functions, at the footy trip, give him the 3 votes, give him the Brownlow. But on field, yeah, I don't know. It's an awkward price. It's a mid only, just like no man's land territory, that price. If he did have forward DPP now, maybe one to consider after his buy. Depends what he does, but yeah, I haven't really thought of him. I think he can be a really nice talent, but there's too many mouths to feed in that Carlton midfield. I think he'll just be stuck on maybe on a wing. I know wing's pretty difficult, maybe half forward.
Yeah.
And dare I say, a massive sub risk, I reckon, as well. So I don't know. A lot of uncertainty, and I think a lot of better options at that price.
Agreed, mate. Agreed. All right, now we'll look at a bit of a best of the rest. The blokes that didn't really make it to the slide. So probably one man, Janath, is this bloke, Sam Doherty. Real bit of a burn man for me. Another one from last year, 562,200. A midfielder only this year. Average in 2023, a tick over 100, 100.6 to be exact. What do you think about Sam Doherty as a midfielder only this year, mate?
Oh, it's tough to justify, isn't it? I think just with him, true warrior. I think he's now 30, so he's one of the older players on the list, along with Nick Newman. He's just consistent. You know what you're going to get from him. Was massive in our finals, playing with dislocated shoulder and just everything. Just absolute warrior. But I think, it's going to be hard if he doesn't play in defense to be a SuperCoach sort of scorer. And I don't think he'll have that role, just given off what we've sort of been hearing from defense from preseason.
Beautiful, mate. All right. I don't think Ake is going to be too relevant. Kennedy may get a little bit of midfield time. Ollie Hollands, mate, relevant whatsoever, or 322,800 way too awkward for us?
I can give it 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years, all right. One to put on the long-term watch list, put it that way.
One for the keeper leagues, I reckon.
One for the keeper league. Very good.
He did go into a bit of a very, very small inside mid-roll while a couple of our midfielders were missing. And so it's just it might be a glimpse into the future of what Ollie can do, because he was brilliant in his first season last year.
Giving him the number 4 as well, so huge.
Yeah, Bryce Gibbs.
Big shoes
there we
to fill.
go.
Six Kernahan.
Oh yes, absolutely. Man with a great
Lockie
mullet and
O'Brien.
a voice like an angel as well.
The goat from Mildura. I don't know if you're watching, look. Be stiff, mate.
Alrighty, we've got another couple of names here, Janath. We've already talked about Willie Bilson. I was going to say even Billy Wilson even down the bottom, but we've also got Jackson Binns and Jackie Carroll. So I've heard a little bit about these two blokes. I think I had Carroll. Was it last year or the year before? And absolutely stuffed me during the buys when he didn't play. The year before, was it? Yeah, there you go, mate. So bad memories with Jackie Carroll. But first of all, tell us a little bit about Jackson Binns, mate. Does he have any chance of getting inside that best 22 this year, do you think? Because I've heard a few decent things about him during the off-season so far, mate.
He could quite possibly have the biggest gap between how much Carlton internally rates him and fans and what other people know, because he is. So last year we drafted him. He was VFL All-Australian of the Year. He had 13 AFL fantasy tons in a row. I think he was averaging like 30 disposals a game. And this is all playing sort of pseudo wing midfield. He's another one of those players, great junior scores. He's going to play wing if he's going to debut, because he's a natural winger. But I mean, those VFL numbers just like, whew.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
Yeah, I reckon if he debuts, he's one you'd want to get on. I just can't see him debuting early. just so much
Okay.
depth on those wings. You've got Blake Acres, Sam Doherty, Matt Cottrell. It's going to be
Hollands as
hard. It's going
well.
to be a hard team. Sorry, Ollie Hollands, massive. Yeah, so it's just right there. It's just you only have 2 wings in a game, so it's like unless one of those gets injured, it's going to be a hard team to crack. Which is probably last year was probably the first year we actually had that sort of selection thing where we had enough depth that not everyone was a guaranteed starter week in, week out.
Love it, mate. Love it. So, and look, the other thing we need to mention as well is that we don't actually want all of these rookies debuting round 1 because we do actually need downgrade options during the year as well.
Yeah.
So definitely one to maybe keep in the back pocket there. The last bloke we'll talk about in the midfield is Jack Carroll. So a talented young type player. Again, same sort of questions there, mate. Do you see him getting into that 22 at any stage this year? Or do you think he's purely depth at this stage and will need to be relying on a few injuries?
Purely depth, but I think, so inverse to Binns, I think Binns plays earlier, but I think Carroll will have the better role if he gets into the team because he is a pure inside mid. At VFL level, he plays really well. As he averaged 84 AFL fantasy points last year as an inside mid. And I think that if he gets in, it's probably a bad thing for Carlton because that means that all the cattle, the big boys are down.
That's right.
So let's hope that that's not the case and that we won't need to rely on Jack Carroll. As a Carlton fan, as a SuperCoach player, then he may be a bit of a different story. But yeah, let's just leave it at that. All right.
So Janath does not want to see this man at all this year. Stay invisible, Jack Carroll, because that may mean there's a little bit of carnage going on. Sylvie, I don't know if you can add anything here, mate. Do you know much about Jackie Carroll or move on to the forwards, mate?
No, not really. Just a lot of these rookies have the exact same concern, and it's that Carlton's wingers, they're just like the Dogs midfield. I mean, good luck getting a sniff. There's just no way. So, yeah, unless there's a bit of carnage, which I wouldn't rely on, I just don't think it's really possible. But hopefully some rookies for the future as they become mature ages for maybe next year or the year after. I think Binns is the one that I'm most optimistic on. His VFL numbers last year were superb, and I really needs a run. Have to play him, otherwise I think another side will offer him a little bit more and could be a risk of losing him. But other than that, yeah, not a whole lot of relevance here, boys. Maybe Billy Wilson if he gets a gig throughout the season, but I want to keep an eye on him if he's on the bubble. So
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so I was pretty sure of this. Before Binns played a game, we signed him on until 2026. So we've got him.
Wow.
We've got him long
good.
term. So it shows massive faith in him. He's one of those players we were saying last year where we want the Binns out, and every single team selection is bring the Binns out. Take the Binns out on a Thursday.
That is shocking.
They just never took the Binns out.
Oh,
and
so bad.
I think he's one that we're stashing away because he's got so much potential. I'm so excited for him when he debuts. It's going to be mental.
Beautiful. Hopefully he gets a little bit of junk time here and there.
Hopefully Carlton don't chuck him in the bin. That's another story.
That's good. That's good. I like that. That went over Stills' head. He had no reaction to that.
No, I missed that actually. I completely missed that.
It wasn't that good, Stills. It wasn't that good, mate. But
I'll
just love my own work.
You got it sometimes.
Into the forward line. Now, usually, I must be honest, I'd almost skip past a player like Charlie Kernahan, but we all know about the dire situation in the forward line. So I think there's got to be a few blokes that we wouldn't normally discuss that need to come into the conversation anyway. And in his own right, had a fantastic year last year. 27 years of age, 23 games, 97.6 for a season average, which for a key forward, I actually think is really solid. Disposal-wise, 13.7, 6.9 contested, over 3 goals a game, which is elite. 7% of the competition own this man. Janath at 545,300. Do you think you're bonkers starting Charlie Kernahan as a key forward?
I'm going to say no. And
wow, okay.
And I guess there's 2 reasons for this. One, product of just absolute bare cupboard of forwards that we have. And if there's a year that we want to start a key forward, it is the year where 4 of the first 6 rounds are best 18. And I think something that a lot of coaches are overlooking with this best 18 in the 4 of the first 6 rounds is the fact that I cannot go, it's so hard to go without Bont. There's no world you can justify going without Bont because he has the best ceiling in the game. And you want these ceiling raisers because that is the only way you can separate yourself in those first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And someone like Kernahan, I'm just going to get the numbers up very quickly, but last year he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 5 games above 125 and 2 of them 178 and 186, both against West Coast because he stat padded.
Destroyed him.
Destroyed him. But if we play, with regards to the fixture, we play Richmond in round 1. Or don't know how the defense can look. Might be dodgy. Round 3, North Melbourne. So might want to. That's a best 18 round. Yep. Round 4 is against Fremantle at Adelaide Oval Gather Round. Round 5, Adelaide at Marvel, and round 6, GWS at Marvel. So it's in those best 18 rounds. He's playing at Marvel all rounds. But in all 3 of them that he plays, because obviously they have to buy in one of them. It's not the worst. It's not the worst. I wouldn't personally go there. But for those 7% of owners, I can see the vision.
You raise a good point, particularly with the ceiling type plays in the best 18, Janath. I think that's a really important point to consider, mate. Spilsy, we know the talent that this bloke possesses, an absolute beast of a human, super talent, and really, just from a general AFL fan's point of view, how good is it just to be able to see this bloke on the park? Because durability has always been a little bit of a concern with him. What are your thoughts on Charlie Curnow, not necessarily as a player, mate, but as a SuperCoach selection this year?
Yeah, look, key forwards, they're always so awkward. And look, as a starting pick, most definitely not. I like the theory, Janath, with the best 18, but I will raise another, source of relevance for Curnow to where I think if there was any way he was going to find in my team, it would be around this time. So 40 trades, right? That's a lot. It's a lot of. There could be a couple of flips late in the season, right? Got West Coast in round 23, so you could plan for that, and he could become. Let's say the forward line is just as dicey as we predict. He could become your F7 potentially, with providing a loophole with Livingstone or whatever his name is. Which is tough. You might have to select another loophole because it's obviously they play each other, so it doesn't really work like that. But if you can get away with having Charlie for that 1 week, where SuperCoach finals are absolutely peaking, that's prelim week, could be a really nice way into a grand final. Played North and West Coast twice last year, and gave them all a bath. So I really like him as a little bit of a left field sneaky option, someone that I'd love to get 2 cracks at. I'm definitely going to have emergency on him if I did it, but that's the only real time I'd actually see Charlie in my side. But other than that, unfortunately, that's just the way of SuperCoach. Key forwards, they never go into my team unless they're a rookie, and that I don't think that is ever going to change. So, but he's an absolute superstar and probably going to have back-to-back Colemans, let's be honest. So, yeah, get up and about, Janath, because he's a bloody good player. No doubt.
You know what, DR, I reckon we was about 2 years ago today, to close to ours. Like, if we ever got, Carlton fans were saying if we got to see Charlie Kernahan play another game, like, properly, that would be a bonus.
Yeah.
So what he's delivered for us these last 2 years, just being at the ground, just how much we get around him, he's just an incredible player. He's so lucky to be able to. It's one of those players.
He's
that
a powerhouse.
If he stays healthy, he's a generational type player. Like he's just so athletic and just kicks so well. He's not just goals. He's got the assists. He's got the Tom Hawkins package as well. It's just brilliant.
Oh, exciting play. And I think the other thing with starting key forwards, if you're starting a key forward at close to 550K, I will guarantee you, I'll put my house on it. This bloke will be available under 500K at some stage during the year, because we've talked about his ceiling games, but I know why Spills has already mentioned a couple of times that he stays away from key forward. It's the floor games. You get the ceiling, but you get the floor as well. So I think if you're interested in someone like a Charlie Kernahan, terrific, my plan would be hopefully wait until a couple of floor games where he lowers that 3-round average, jump on him, and then hope to get some of those ceiling games in return. So that would be my play with Charlie Kernahan anyway. I've only got one more bloke on the slide here until we get to some of the rest of the best, and it's Orazio Fantasia, 28 years of age, 3 games last year, 39.3 for an average. I'm not going to go through all the stats there, but very simply, Janath, is he SuperCoach relevant?
I'm not going to say no, and it's just the fact is that he's priced at 31, and he's gone at 59, which is what he needs to make 150K in the last 3 full seasons he's played. So it's not the worst. But I think he's on the fringe. He's just one of those fringe players that he reminds me of Tyson Stengel when he came to Geelong, just a player that had been written off, just no reason to pick him, and then he was an All-Australian in a premiership winning team. So if he could have that sort of impact for Carlton, we as fans were surprised that he was even selected by Carlton. Like, we just didn't really think that was the case, because I think for most people they were thinking he's going to go to GWS or at last year. So I know Spills, he probably brings a bit of bad blood for you, mate. Along with Sardi, you're not going to enjoy watching Carlton games with those two get a run together. But yeah, just a watch list. See how he goes in preseason. And I think this year we may not have the forward premiums, but we may get lucky with the forward rookies, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Few good options. Spilsy, Orazio, float your boat at all, mate?
Look, if he gets games and can stay on the park, let's be honest, bloke's made of glass. He's shocking. He's bloody up there. He's worse than Zack Williams of injuries. This guy, he just can't stay on the park. But hypothetically, if he can, I do like him at that price, and it's bloody slim pickings in that forward line. So yeah, let's say Nick Watson's not all to be. Lazaro's not getting gigs, so it's a bit dry. That's where I think we can sort of consider players like this. But I definitely reckon he's more of a top-up player, and I don't think he's best 22, but if there's some injuries, he's a pretty handy player to come in if he finds some form in the VFL. Hasn't played many great games without not being a Don, and the one game that stands out to me in particular was when he was playing for Port Adelaide against the Dons in 2021 at the start of the season. He just carved us up, kicked 4 or 5 goals, and just looked like a revelation. And I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and we got smashed at the Adelaide Oval. It was carnage.
Oh, so, geez.
Yeah, he had the last laugh, razzle dazzle, but yeah, since then hasn't looked back. So I like redemption. I like a good footy story, and putting SuperCoach aside, I'd like to see him get back to playing good footy. And if he could make Carlton's best 22 and the way they're going, even become a premiership player, I mean, yeah, what a story. And when players defeat adversity, like, nothing makes me happier than that. Like, it's just such a great story. Like, when you think of Marlon Pickett, like these guys who they come in, win flags, like, regardless of the fact they used to play for the Dons. So let's hope that he can come back to an extent, but yeah, hasn't been in my SuperCoach team all preseason, I'll be honest with you, but let's not write him out, that's for sure.
Jeez,
you're a lot kinder than what I thought you'd be. I thought you were going to give me a massive boy.
No, I got a soft spot. I really liked Orazio.
He's going on about
he's a good player.
And stuff. Are we on April Fools or something?
Yeah.
Like,
well, when I look on Twitter, and every single Carlton fan seems to think so. So you may as well back him in. Sam McClure thinks so. So more reports. I mean,
Sam McClure, he's a clown.
Is he a
He-
Carlton
he says
supporter, Janath?
He is a Carlton
Does
supporter.
he go for? Oh,
He
my
does.
God, for fuck's sake.
He says that we're
He's
going to win the
unreal, isn't he?
premiership one week, then since we're the team under most pressure the
He's
next week.
unreal.
I wonder why, mate.
You're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. West Coast will not select Harley Reid. Mate, you're not listening. Oh, it's shocking, isn't it? Really? Come on, Sammy. Be
Yeah,
He's
better.
a gutter.
I dare you to tag Sam on this video on Twitter.
I shouldn't I? Yeah.
I will. I don't give it. I don't care. I will. Come at me, Scoop. I'll be tuning a threat. I'll be calling you on Sports Day and telling he roasted you on a bloody podcast. So tagged you on
the
Twitter
trade
and then got roasted
whisperer.
again.
Yeah,
The trade
that's
whisperer,
it. That's
yeah.
it. The trade
whisperer.
whisperer.
Razio Fantasia for Norm Smith, Sammy McClure.
I reckon Sammy McClure might have an Instagram and has seen you with the rig out, mate. So I don't reckon he's going to take on that challenge, mate. He,
It's a private account, mate. That's all behind closed doors.
Is that right?
No, yeah, that's it. Private account, mate. I've got to accept that follow request first. What are we on about? What is this podcast? It wouldn't be a Swordplay podcast without some bloody rubbish at the end, honestly.
Yeah, you can tell we are getting towards the end. Absolutely. Well, look, I don't know if there's going to be too many more relevant players here, boys, but we are in the Carlton forward line here. So, McKay, I don't think, Silvani's obviously injured. Lockie Fogarty, I don't really think so here. Stop me if you think there's anyone here, Janath, but we go on the Jack Martins, the Jesse Motlop.
Breakout player there, Jesse Motlop. He's gonna be a star this year. Not SuperCoach, sorry. I should preface that.
AFL relevant though, bit of a star. I like it.
Star. And then Ashton Moyer, that's the one.
Ashton Moyer. All right, mate. Tell us about Ashton.
He is apparently now in his draft class. He is the best. Oh, what's the word? I forgot the word. He can kick set shots from 45 with his left foot and his right foot.
The old ambidextrous type operation.
So he's in that sort of mid-sized forward role, exactly sort of the Jack Silvani type role. He was highly touted. He's highly touted in juniors, and if he could debut round one, I think off the players round zero, he could debut in round zero. If he's going to be ahead of Elijah Hollands because he can't play in round 0 or round 1. But we'll see by the time. I reckon even if Moyer's picked in round 1 at round 0, hold off until the Carlton bye to bring him in, because you want to see if he plays after Elijah Hollands comes into the team. If he does, there's lots of ifs there. But I wouldn't start Moyer in round 1 just in the case that he's automatically out for Elijah Hollands in round 2. It's just obviously just a wait and see there. And we're afforded that luxury because Carlton don't have any price rise until after their bye.
Beautiful, mate. Well, that's it, lads. Team preview all done and dusted. And I tell you what, it was fantastic getting back with you two, lads, because it has been a while since the three of us have been together. But what a conversation it was. Spills, I can't believe you managed to talk about Carlton for over an hour there, mate. Hats off to you, mate. It may have been a little bit difficult, was it?
What is that? That'll never happen again. I just got carried away talking about bloody Razio because I used to love a bit of razzle dazzle on the G. But hopefully you can turn around, boys. Never happen again. Carlton can go away now. Done with that.
They can get stuffed.
I'm not be talking about Carlton until that Tom Green bye, and then Sam Wells. They'll start talking about Carlton again. But from now until then, I don't want to hear about Carlton. We're all over. We're done.
But still, I have a question. For you. Is Sam Walsh a good bloke?
What's that? Oh, is he a good bloke? Well, listen to Dylan Friends, and he actually seems all right. Yeah,
he's a good bloke. Yeah, he's a good bloke.
Yeah, he's
not as good of a bloke as Zach Merritt, though, I must say.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't know that. Maybe they should compete for it. Let's do the Swordplay's best bloke. Annual best bloke featuring Sam Welsh and Zach Merritt. Let's go, boys.
That
So-
conversation there summed you blokes up to a T. We say the professor and the chiller. Janath's giving us these numbers. This is why you get Walshy. And Spill's a chiller. Well, no, Zerett's a pretty good bloke. Get him in your side. Love it, boys. Hey, different ways to approach the game. And I think that's why we gel so well together as a trio here, boys. So,
and it bloody work too. So sometimes less is more.
Sometimes there's more.
He's very philosophical at the
very
moment, Spills, isn't he? I'd say we're going to get some Shakespeare quotes, I think, during the year in this Swordplay potty.
I've come back from off-season more wise than I was last year.
That's right. Bring a bit more of the table, Spillsy. Look, fellas, it was awesome to catch up. As I said, we've got the Spotify going on, launching the new website. We've got the merch happening at the moment. So big times for this podcast. And gentlemen, cannot wait till the next time we get together. I think the next preview we've got coming up, I forget. I think it might be Sydney or a Sydney team. But we'll get to that, boys. That was some of the good juice. Much appreciated, Janath. Thank you very much for your insights, mate. And Spilsy, great to hear from you as always, mate. The chiller out of the crew. So, guys, thanks for joining us as always. And we'll see you soon in the next one. Catch you, lads.
Kudos, boys.